Hi everyone, welcome to Snapshots. Today we're looking at all the different types of film cameras you can get at the moment. And I'm sure there might be some obscure ones that I miss, and we probably won't be really delving into large formats since I don't own any, but I might say a sentence or two on it, so let's get to it. Basically, with all your 35mm and 120 cameras, they can be broken up into basically 4 different types. Of course, there are definitely some more unique ones and obscure ones that I just don't have much knowledge of, but this is basically the main types of cameras you're able to get. And so you basically have your SLRs, you also have your rangefinders, you also have your TLRs, and then you have your viewfinder cameras. Okay, let's start with your common one, which is your SLR or single lens reflex. With these cameras there's a mirror, and what you're seeing through the viewfinder is a reflection of what the lens is seeing from that mirror to your eye. And so these are very common. These are also, I would say personally, the best kind of for portraits, because you can get a lot closer to the subject than your rangefinders, though your TLRs and other bellows focus cameras you can definitely get much closer to as well. Probably the easiest ones to learn on, and that's basically what makes it probably the best for getting your composition, your framing exactly the way you're seeing it. These will most likely be the ones, but these are probably the most versatile, at least in my opinion. Great for portraiture, street, landscape, basically anything. These are also the most useful if you want to see a depth of field kind of preview or know how your shallow depth of field or deep focus looks. These ones will be the most accurate from what you're seeing and what the lens is seeing. As a beginner, that's all you kind of really need to know, is that with SLRs, what you're seeing through the viewfinder is what the lens is seeing. Next, we're going into rangefinders. So you can get rangefinders in 35 and medium format as well. So they're a lot more compact, lighter, because there's no mirror going up and down and adding vibrations and sounds. They're definitely the more silent, better for street. You can also go on lower shutter speeds and not have to worry about motion blur that could be caused from stuff inside the camera. And if you're a street photographer, this is definitely more of a classic kind of camera. One of the main differences is with your focusing. So this has a rangefinder, and that's how you focus with this. And what it looks like when you're looking through a rangefinder is you see 2 overlapping images, and you need to line them up so that they're perfectly on top of each other. And once they're lined up like that, that's to tell you it's in focus. There's definitely some variables that go into whether it will be exactly accurate. This is why you need to calibrate your rangefinder, but not all the time. But it's definitely a video that will be coming up soon about rangefinder calibration, so keep an eye out for that in the future. Rangefinder cameras also tend to have frame lines in the viewfinder, so there's always a bit of extra space around it, which isn't what your photo is going to be. So this can be handy in predicting as somebody's about to walk into frame. Your viewfinder is sometimes a little bit off compared to where the lens actually is. Sometimes it can affect your composition a little bit, but usually with rangefinders you can't really get close focus anyway, so it's not usually a big problem. So next we have the TLR. So what TLR stands for is twin lens reflex, and as you can see on this camera, it's got 2 lenses. One is for composing and focusing, and then the other lens is the lens that you actually take the photo with. Now this came along before the SLRs, and so they're definitely bulkier, but they are pretty cool to use, and most of them are bellows focused as well. One big benefit with TLRs is that they tend to be leaf shutters. With leaf shutters, they're more intrusive and add less motion blur than the shutter in the SLRs does, and so you can go a bit lower on your shutter speeds and not worry about any motion blur being added to the image or vibration from that. And they also sync at any shutter speed. So with the SLRs, normally they sync at 60th, sometimes 90th, sometimes at 125th. Some SLRs do have a leaf shutter like the RB and the RZ, but not all of them do. They're pretty great for basically anything: landscape, portraiture, street. And so lastly, going to go into viewfinder cameras. A viewfinder camera is very similar to a rangefinder, except it doesn't have the same type of focusing system, but it does have the same kind of frame lines in your viewfinder. Obviously, what you're seeing through the viewfinder isn't exactly where the lens is, so there can be some variation within your composition compared to what you're seeing and what you're getting. Either it's an autofocus system that's broken up into zones, or it's a zone focus system where you have to manually set your distance from your subject. And so stuff like the Nikonos really compact and point and shoot cameras are all this kind of thing. While there are some more complicated point and shoots that do have a lot of different focus points, they're basically broken up into zones, and so it's kind of judging the distance away from the subject. Now your disposable cameras will come under viewfinder cameras as well, though they have a set aperture and a set shutter speed, and most of your box cameras are like this as well, though sometimes you can vary the aperture. I did a video on the Rolly 35, which is also a viewfinder camera, but these just tend to have less features, less control, but sometimes they do have added benefits, like the Nikonos is waterproof, or this Minox GT is super small and compact. Now there's definitely a lot more obscure cameras that are more unique. Even the Fuji 6x8, which still is technically an SLR camera, it's a very different in design and functionality, almost like a large format camera in a way, but I have no experience with it. And just to briefly touch on large format, there's two different types. You have your monorail system and your field camera system. The monorail seems to have more options as far as playing with the focal plane and stuff like that, while your field camera, not as much. For the moment, this is just a brief introduction to kind of just get you interested and get you a little bit more informed on the different types. I'm sure there's bound to be some stuff that I forgot, so feel free to comment below, but this was just basically a brief overview, and there's definitely other different types of systems that I probably don't know about or just have no experience in, so I didn't think we would talk about it today. But yeah, I hope you liked the video. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Feel free to like and subscribe, turn on those post notifications to know when there's a new video. Anyway, I'm Josh. This has been Snapshots. Just get out there, shoot some fun.